And I wish that more people who were aspiring artists would quit and pivot. You have to have like an ego death as an adult. And you need to realize your dreams when you're like an 11-year-old are stupid fucking dreams. You're 11. Why are you 32 still pursuing your 11-year-old dreams?
Yeah.
You need to make new dreams.
Yeah.
Figure out what actually makes sense for you. And, you know, for me, it was like, yeah, I could be an artist, but every time I was trying to do that, I felt like I was swimming upstream and I wasn't enjoying myself. And then when I started writing, it was like, oh, I feel like I'm on the lazy river and I'm just fucking coasting to success.
Halo, but I don't think I deserve it. But something must be working. I know that I ain't perfect, but I'm super close. Told me not to drink it, but I'm swerving. I'm flying, but
Episode 37 of Invest in Music with Gino The Ghost. Today we're here to talk about his massive rise to fame on Instagram with his new podcast, Block Tones, Hume Collective, Unseen Club, and how to build a brand in 2023. As a reminder, you can collect this episode on investinmusic.xyz. Want to give a big shout out to Vivid Fever Dreams, Jason Meinzer, and Lucas for being our top collectors. Gino's an absolutely phenomenal guest, so without further ado, let's get into it. Episode 37 of Invest in Music with Gino The Ghost. All right, we are back. Gino The Ghost in the building. What's going on, brother?
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you, man. I like that hoodie you got on there.
Yeah. This episode brought to you by the Unseen Hoodies. We're matching. We look fucking fantastic. We look like a girl's dream, I would say.
It's a great day to be alive. You know, we got ETH going up.
Yeah.
Things are on the rise.
Yeah, we had a moment where everybody's like, oh, we're just going straight to 5K and we're going to be rich. Then it kind of pulled back a little bit. CZ went to jail. Because I'm a giga Chad, did a little shopping spree yesterday, bought a little Bitcoin.
Wow.
Trying to add to my Bitcoin position a little bit. And yeah, we literally are right back up today. So it's good. It's a good day.
It's a great day. And I'm excited about this episode because you're someone that I can uniquely talk to about the depths of crypto and the depths of music. And I feel like that's a very deadly combo.
Oh, yeah.
Heading into this next year. So before we go into the depths of all of the above, who is Gino The Ghost?
That's a great question. Yeah, I'm glad you asked. I am a producer, songwriter based in LA. I'm from Detroit. I work in Web3. I dropped a collection in a project called Block Tones end of last year. I'm working now with Hume. And so I work a lot in the music NFT space, but I'm also a collector and trader in just the digital art space as well. And I have a podcast. So that's me, among other things, but that's the short version.
And 2-time Grammy.
Oh, yeah. I won a couple of those and was nominated like
7
times. I don't really count or talk about it often. Just every chance
Friends
I
with
get.
the charts.
Friends with the charts. Yeah, so 6 million records sold. But it's fine. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, he says he has a podcast, but what he didn't say to you guys that it's one of the fastest growing podcasts. Instagram Reels were going viral every week, it seems, at this point.
It's been a lot of fun for me, man, because, you know, like working in music, you create so much, like as a songwriter and a producer. Like I make so much music that I'm so passionate about and excited about, and I get to like put my DNA in it and I get to, you know, give it my all or whatever. But then it just like never comes out because it's just so hard to get music to come out with artists. And, you know, you make 250 songs a year. And if you're lucky, even the biggest writers and producers in the game, you're lucky to place like 20. So, and that's a high fucking number. Mm-hmm. You know, I know people who are award-winning, credited, you know, incredibly talented, and they'll go like a year without a placement. It's like, you know, a major placement. And so the podcast has given me a way to consistently just put out shit that I make that is fun to me and entertaining to me and allows me to be a storyteller. And so it's been great. It's been a lot of fun, and it's growing fast, which is always good to get validated by numbers because we're all whores for the algorithm. So it's nice to be rewarded.
It's definitely nice. It's definitely nice. And there's a lot I want to unpack there. I want to start, though, by understanding more about your background. You mentioned that you're from Detroit. You know, the Lions are having a great season, which is a very rare thing for you. I don't want to, get your hopes up or anything, but it's great to see it happening. Talk to me about your early music roots. Like growing up, were you always into music? Is it something that you discovered later on in life, or what did that look like for you?
So, I mean, way back, I used to do poetry. I was like a slam poet. And then I got into rapping in high school. I was in a rap group in high school. And then in college is when I really started to like see things materialize, and like I started to really take it serious. I think a lot of it was because like I just had so much free time because I didn't give a fuck about school. But I wanted to like, you know, I was still at school and like wanted to do it. But I was a battle rapper, and that's kind of like what really started to take off for me locally. Wow. And I was just going around campus, like freestyling. I got known around school for that. And my music started to take off. I was doing a lot more like boom bap style stuff. It was the blog era. This is like, I mean, really aging myself here. But back before Spotify and DSPs, people got their music from, you know, Dat Piff, The Source, Complex, Two Dope Boys, Ill Roots, all those sites. And I was really tapped in on there, and they loved me. The blogs loved me. And that's kind of where I started to gain a lot of momentum. And then right after college, I graduated college. I was acting, and I did a lot of voiceover stuff too, which we don't need to dive into, but that was really moving, even almost more than the music was. I was in a film with Universal called Into the Storm. I was the lead in the Linkin Park video, and I was doing a bunch of voiceover for Marvel and DC Comics. And this was all happening like at once. And I came out to LA with the premiere for Into the Storm. And when I did, I met with the agent at Abrams, which is like a huge agency out here. He was like, as soon as you move to LA, I'm going to sign you across the board, and like, it's go time. So I moved to LA, and right when I moved here, he fucking ghosted me. So that was like my intro to Hollywood. And yeah, for like a bunch of years, I was just broke and lost and confused, and I didn't know what to do out here like most people that moved to LA. And I was just trying to survive for literally like 5 years, and was just doing anything I could do to make money. I mean, it makes it sound like I was selling my body. I wasn't doing anything, but I was, you know, DoorDash and Uber and like all these fucked up gigs that suck. And I was making music and just trying to figure it out. And my boy Adam Small, who was at the time was interning for Max Goose, who's a legendary A&R and manager, hit me up and was like, yo, I can't get you in the room as an artist, but if you've ever thought about writing for other people, we have this new female rapper that we want to try to blow up. We need help writing her records, and you're the best rapper I know. Like, are you down to try it? So I was like, yeah, fuck it. So that was Sweetie, and I just locked myself in the gym, so to speak, for like months, learning how to write pop records. And I've always written my own songs, but I learned like the art over an extended amount of time. And we just, with Sweetie, we just locked in and we blew it up together, all of us. And that was my catalyst into being a songwriter. Because then from there, obviously, a lot of like pop music sessions started coming about. And then I got into Latin and K-pop. And yeah, that was kind of the kicking off point.
Was it difficult to you to go from being like on campus rapping, probably having like a very public profile, to being in these rooms as like a writer?
So a lot of people think that, like, I think a lot of people think that, especially for me and a lot of people like me who are like, I'm an artist, that it would be a tough pill to swallow to be like a behind the scenes. But I don't think, I can only speak for myself, obviously, but it's so fun to like make the music, and you still like, it's funny, songwriters feel like rock stars and producers too. Like the way that social media works today, you can kind of position yourself as a rock star. Like you're still building a profile in a way that like the writers of back in the day couldn't really. I mean, they were literally behind the scenes. Nobody knew who they were. The only way that you knew that they were songwriters was like if you read the pamphlet or if you really like looked into it. You know, now like with Instagram especially, you can like be an artist in a sense, you know? And some writers I know damn near are celebrities just because they're, you know, Like Derek Milano wasn't, you know, and a lot of these writers I know were artists first. And we laugh about it a lot because it's like we started as rappers or artists or whatever. And I think everybody, you know, when you're younger, you think the only thing you can be is an artist. Same with film. Like you think the only thing you can do is be an actor. And then when you get into the industry, you start to realize like, oh, maybe I don't want to actually be an artist. Like that sounds fucking horrible. I gotta like do all these interviews and make all these TikToks and do all this shit. Like that sounds fucking I don't want to do that. I just like making music, or I like putting records together. I want to be an A&R, or I have a great vision for the business of music. I want to be a manager, an executive. And you just kind of start to see it for what it is as you become an adult. Yeah. Really. And I wish that more people who were aspiring artists would quit and pivot and find, you know, because it's this like,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, you have to have like an ego death as an adult. Yeah. And you need to realize this is the opposite advice that anybody will give you, which is like chase your dreams, chase your dreams, chase your dreams. And the reality is your dreams when you're like an 11-year-old are stupid fucking dreams. You're 11. Why are you 32 still pursuing your 11-year-old dreams? Yeah. You need to make new dreams. Yeah. And figure out what actually makes sense for you. And you know, for me, it was like, yeah, I could be an artist, and maybe one day I will be again. But every time I was trying to do that, I felt like I was swimming upstream, and I wasn't enjoying myself. And then when I started writing, it was like, oh, I feel like I'm on the lazy river, and I'm just fucking coasting to success. Yeah. And that's what it should feel like. So, to be honest, no, I didn't feel the ego punch of it.
Do you feel like you had an ego death moment like you just described there? Is there a moment when you realized like I'm going to sunset this chapter of me being like a quote unquote rapper into going into more of the writer side of things? Or is it just natural?
It kind of just happened. Yeah. I mean, I loved doing it so much when I was doing it that it didn't feel like I had to give anything up. Right. I didn't like feel any less of a, like I didn't have to swallow my pride, I guess. I think the only thing that's an adjustment is when you have a song that's massive, you know, like My Type. I was one of the writers on My Type, which was like the song of the summer, 4 times platinum now. Yeah. And when nobody knows you did it globally, except for all the people in the music industry or like people that come across, you know, that's, I think the only thing that's like, I guess the ego death. Yeah. But you kind of start to realize, like, it just doesn't really matter. Like, it's so cool to me that or any song that I make that is successful, that many people consume and listen to it and enjoy it. And I don't give a fuck if they know that I did it or not, because I'm going to let you know whenever I can anyway. It's my job to let you know, you know.
That makes a lot of sense. Is that how you felt about some of those Grammy records as well?
Yeah, for sure. You know, again, like the Grammys especially, I mean, it's all bullshit. Like the awards are all bullshit, obviously.
Explain why they are bullshit for someone listening to this that does not know how the Grammys work.
The Grammys are, a lot of it is politics. There's a voting member, like a body of members that actually decide. So it's largely up to them. It doesn't matter how popular it is. It doesn't matter. You know, there's a lot, like, you know, when I say politics, I mean like you do the Grammy circuit, you shake the hands and kiss the babies, and you do the things. And I don't think it's as malicious as people think it is. Like, it's not necessarily like money changing hands, or like, you just got to play the game. It's like anything else. And as a songwriter, that's out of your hands. As a producer, that's out of your hands. A lot of times as an artist, it's kind of out of your hands. Not always, but like people like Drake, The Weeknd, like they don't give a fuck. And that's why they don't win a lot. Everyone's like, how the fuck was The Weeknd not nominated? And like, yeah, he should have been last year, but he just didn't care. And like, he doesn't play it, you know. So all that to say, it's an honor and it's super humbling to win and to be nominated. But if you're not nominated, you shouldn't feel, or if you don't win, you shouldn't feel like you didn't deserve to, it's like anything, man. It's like when I say it's all bullshit, I guess I just mean like it shouldn't be the thing that validates how successful you are, how good you are. Now, it is a shiny, beautiful trophy that I can showcase whenever I talk about myself. Mm-hmm. And it's like a title that like makes me feel, like Hall of Fame running back, so and so. It's like that for it's tough. I don't feel until I'm the one on stage accepting a Grammy as like a songwriter of the year or a producer of the year, or I'm up there for song of the year. I'm going to still feel like I got to go. I'm not there yet, you know?
Yep.
But
I do love the perspective you bring, though, because you broke down, I believe it was the Grammys, where you did like a video reviewing the categories and all the submissions and whatnot. And it was really refreshing to hear it from your perspective, because a lot of times you just see the list of the names and it's just like these big names that you've probably heard the records, you've heard the artists, but I feel like you just had a very, like, it's like you're like a fucking pro at football or basketball and you're thinking about players. Like, you were breaking down the categories. You were saying like, I don't mean to be disrespectful, I feel like rap had a weak year this year. Like, talk to me about how you think about evaluating the music industry.
A lot of it's obviously just my opinion. Rap statistically is down across the board the last, I think, 3 years as a genre. It's growing as a genre. It's still the most consumed genre, and the numbers are going up. But in terms of charting and success, those numbers are down. And I think a lot of that could probably be attributed to like the major artists hadn't really put anything out at the time. You know, like Drake just dropped. Kendrick hasn't dropped. J. Cole hasn't dropped. A lot of people that you like look for to be like the curators of rap haven't really put anything out. And so it's been mainly artists like Travis and 21 and who are great, but obviously it's just been a lower. Doja had the biggest year this year. But she's obviously a controversial figure because people think all the satanic shit, blah, 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 which is all overblown and bullshit. But yeah, I mean, I think, did that answer your question? Yeah. I don't remember the question. Yeah.
It was basically just like how you think about evaluating the music industry. Because I feel like you bring a really good perspective on thinking about not only like what records are successful, but then just the broader like zeitgeist and culture of it. And, for those who haven't seen or listened to your podcast, I'd recommend it because you bring this very like humorous way of explaining things that are very industry oriented, but without sounding like you're a fucking suit.
Thank you.
That's like being paid to go and like give these reports or something. Like, it feels very honest. And you did say it's your own opinion, obviously, but it feels grounded within like a very strong background, which I think is very refreshing for someone like me, just to be able to, like, I didn't know who was in all those categories until I watched your video. And I not only learned who was in the categories, but then I also learned, like you just said, about rap and whatnot. And I feel like you bringing that context to the world is like a very valuable thing to provide.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I would say even like taking that a step further, part of the reason why I've loved what you've been putting out recently is you've put out some videos about things like BMI and how they've been changing the way that songwriters are being paid. You've put out things about just like the industry in general that I feel like are very important for anyone working in music to know, but presented in a way that they would actually listen to it, as opposed to like BMI press statement, which no one's ever going to fucking read.
I mean, the only like, how would I word this without sounding like a dick? There's not a lot of great media out there for the people that work within entertainment to consume. Like you said, it's a lot of like NPR radio and like Suits and like bullshit, or people that are just like, how do I put this eloquently? Dick sucking the media or the powers that be. And so I guess I'm trying to like one arm of it is doing like music industry content or entertainment industry content for those people in a way that's like from somebody in it that's experienced it and has that insider perspective, but also in a way that's like digestible and entertaining for people that aren't in it without like, this is how the music business works, but just in a way that's like, hey, you probably didn't realize this, but songwriters don't make any fucking money, and this is who collects our money, and they just decided we're going to pay you less money. Oh, and also they just completed their sale and got bought by a VC firm and acquired yesterday, which will be on this week's episode. This is how it impacts songwriters. This is how it impacts you as a listener. And that kind of shit, the bottom line is it's just fun for me to talk about. Like, that's why I do it. And I feel like anybody who makes anything, you, this podcast, or, you know, all the ventures you have, if it doesn't bring you, like, joy and, like, it doesn't feel like work, then you just shouldn't fucking do it. So for me, it's like, I'll sit in the studio and rant about this shit on my own. I might as well create content around it and try to monetize it and make it something that's like cool for people to listen to, you know? So,
well, talk to me about that process, because I feel like you've done such a good job at finding your voice online in a way that so many artists today really struggle with. They look at short form as this bane beast that they don't want to deal with, but they do it anyway. And I know it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but I feel like you found such an articulate way of describing all the shit that you want to talk about. Like, what did that process look like for you to get that all started?
So I've been like talking shit on the internet my whole life on the internet. Like I was one of the first 1,000 people on Twitter. My internet popularity began on Twitter, because I just talk shit relentlessly. And through all the different apps, you know, as we've gone through the history of the apps and Snapchat and Vine and whatever, TikTok, and I've like just trying to been finding my voice on there and like the style of video, and it's obviously changed as you got to keep, it's like anything, you got to keep up with the internet and how it changes.
Yep.
And I think a lot of it is like, do what is authentically you, but most importantly, what version of that sticks and works.
Yeah.
And so for me, you know, every time you post anything on the internet, you're playing the lottery, literally. And so, and it's hard to like know what is going to work without doing it for a while, because you can't just post one thing and, oh, it didn't work, moving on. You got to give it time to marinate. And so I had this thing on TikTok that really blew up almost 2 years ago now. This like these videos where I was making fun of this guy named Bentelect. And it was just me. I like created this character and this persona. And a lot of it stemmed from me not being able to be an actor like I used to be, or be an artist like I used to be. And content creation, this is going to sound really fucking convoluted and douchey, but content creation, like you are an artist when you make stuff. 100%. And you need to treat yourself like one. And so I kind of like was creating this art myself as an artist, as this entertainer on there just talking shit, and it started to really take off. But then I got put in like algorithm jail because I kept getting banned on TikTok. But I knew it worked because I saw it work, and I saw the response I was getting from people, and it was the same feeling I got when like a record works or a sound works, and I'm like, oh, people fuck with this. Okay, let me make a note of that. And then I was getting frustrated because I couldn't reclaim that virality because I was in, fucking TikTok jail. And I didn't have the success on Instagram at the time. Like I couldn't get that figured out. And I just was kind of stuck. And I have been thinking like, man, people have been telling me I got to do a podcast, and I've been wanting to do a podcast, but it's just like every white cis male has a podcast. And I was like, I don't want to be another guy with the podcast. But I just kind of like, you got to just get that fucking shit out of your, it just doesn't, like, who gives a fuck if I'm going to get comments when I first make my, oh, great, another, and I did get them. Yeah. Oh, another white guy with a podcast. Like, not everybody needs a podcast type shit. And, the struggle at first is with the long form. Like, it's tough to get people to listen to long form content today. Yep. And so my first thought was like, I'm going to make my podcast huge, the long form. And then, I'll do clips. Well, what started happening is nobody gave a fuck about the long form, but the clips are going nuts. Yep. So then I started to rethink it and reposition it when I was like producing out the show, which is like, okay, this is like I need to create clips, but you don't want to have it be contrived. So I would just produce the show out in segments, and those segments I would cut down into clips. And so now my podcast is like, I'll just be like, talking about this, now this, but it's cohesive, like an album, but they're singles. Yeah. They're all singles. And the idea is I was like, I'll just be as consistent as I can because, like, you know, Gary Vee, he's not like a close friend of mine, but like we're connected, and he just constantly is like more, post more. And I had never been so consistent on socials. So I'd never really seen what that looked like. And I started posting. I literally do 1 episode a week, and I'll post a clip a day, sometimes 2. And man, my shit is going nuts. I'm up like 40,000 followers in a month.
Yep.
It's insane.
Yep.
And, you know, not every clip goes dummy viral, but now like my floor has climbed to like 40K views.
Yep.
And then I'm seeing a lot more millies, and it's all slowly trickling into the long form.
Yep.
So it's insanely time consuming. It has consumed my life literally, but it's great and rewarding because it's like mine, and it's my platform, and it's my brand, and I'm kind of an artist again.
Yep.
To kind of bring it full circle.
100%. It's exactly why I wanted to have you on the episode right now, because I feel like this year coming up is going to be just like major for you. You know, like I feel like you found this pocket where you're really resonating with people. And we talked before about how you struggle with the type of content that you want to make here, because most of the ones that are getting 1 million views are you talking about random shit. It's like you like making fun of
the reaction
someone.
content.
Yeah, the reaction content. Yeah. And I know you told me that you're trying to balance the relationship between like the BMI content of something that's super informative, super helpful to people, and then like reaction content. How do you think about that with the output that you have today?
Man, I'm not somebody who's like, and I'm not this way with music either, where I'm like on my high horse and too proud to do stuff that works. Mm-hmm. You know, if you like think about it with music, like sampling right now, everything is a fucking sample.
Yep.
Because it works, and it's what everyone's looking for. So I would be dumb and inefficient to not create records around samples. Mm-hmm. Like, the labels want flips, I'll think of cool ways to do flips.
Yep.
On that same token, the reaction content, it does so well. And I think something that it's not frustrating for me, but I'll spend hours and hours and hours researching. Like, I just did a whole episode on OpenAI debacle. Yep. And I spent so long like researching about AI and this company power structure and effective altruism and safety and deceleration versus growth and for profit and like all these things. And it's like, it still did well. The video still did well. But then, like, I'll post a video like, Kim Kardashian won Man of the Year for GQ, and that shit went nuts, and people love it. Yeah. It's like, I think it's important to, with anything I do, even that kind of shit, or like this video today. I posted a video today where there's like this preacher who like does this ridiculous sermon and compares Jesus to a stripper, and it's like hilarious and ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I love just talking shit, but like anytime I react to something, it's important for me to give my own perspective on it, and like a different perspective, as opposed to just like, whoa, this is dumb, mm-hmm. and like reacting like that, versus like being funny and creating an entertaining piece of. I always compare it to like on Twitter. Yeah. When people like retweet, like quote retweet a hilarious tweet, and they say like, yes, and then that tweet gets like, it's like, what, this didn't add anything. Yeah. You just retweet it normal. Yeah. Why did you even think that, like, you just wanted to suck from that and use that, versus quote retweeting it and adding a hilarious reaction to it, or something that adds to the joke. Yeah. Or informatively adds to what's being said. That's tight. Mm-hmm. And you're adding something. So I always try to do that when I'm reacting, I guess, and balancing that in my output.
Well, I think it's a good transition, because Twitter is a whole different ballpark. I mean, if you go over there and you start to think about the type of content you're talking about, obviously we talk more about crypto on Twitter. I noticed that you've been posting your short form videos on Twitter, and they don't get the same reaction as Instagram. No. Which is fascinating to me, to think about the language and how you're communicating your brand very differently relative to the different platform that you're talking on.
It's tough, man. Candidly, I have not cracked Twitter yet.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of like the audience I've built on there. Obviously, like even in general, like growing my Twitter, my Twitter was popping way back in the day.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of stopped tweeting as much. And it was a whole different audience of people. And then obviously as like Web3 Twitter, and I began on that journey, my Twitter is entirely Web3.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it's all Web3. And so, and also just the kind of content that works on there is different. Like that shit, the clips don't work on Twitter. It's not built for that.
Yeah.
I don't care. And I'm still going to post it because why not? Yeah, I don't give a fuck. And I don't post all of them, but I'll be like, oh, this will be funny on Twitter maybe.
Yep.
But it's, again, it's trying to like balance, like when I'm talking about Web3 shit, music NFTs on Twitter. And then also I'm like, hey guys, I also have this podcast. And every time I go on it, like Spaces or something, people are talking about it, but it's not, I don't know.
I think it's a really good 1-2 punch, because I've been thinking about the landscape of social media these days, and I almost view Twitter as like where you build authenticity within this super niche community that is crypto, balanced with this very big top of funnel, which is Instagram, TikTok, etc. You have millions of people laughing about a Kim Kardashian reaction, but then if they come and discover you and your brand and they want to stay more involved with you, you come over to Twitter and now you have, you're rocking a CryptoPunk as your avatar. You have all these threads about how you're a big supporter of checks and all these, amazing projects. And I feel like it just adds a really nice dimension. And I think there's something that everyone who's in crypto can take away from this, which is like, don't be all crypto all the time. Like find a way to be really authentic to your crypto self, but don't feel like you need to only talk about that on Instagram, because you actually benefit a lot from not talking about it at all on Instagram and then allowing you to have this kind of safe space, which is like, I know my people are here, but I'm not going to fucking put this in your face if you're not in this pocket.
Man, I used to have my ape as my profile photo on Instagram, and you're right, man. I think what's been really interesting to see is because I post about and I talk about on my podcast a decent amount of Web3. Like every episode, I'll kind of touch on it because, of course, it's like my life. So like, why would I not? And I'd say like once a week, once every other week, I'll post like a Web3 video. And the reaction that I get has drastically changed in the past like year and a half, I'd say. Like when I first started I posted about gaming NFTs a while ago, and it was just like scam, bullshit, fucking blah, And then I posted about my ape and then it was like scam, bullshit. And then I posted about like NFTs are dead, the Rolling Stone article. They're right. Bleh. And I'm like, well, no, statistically, no. Like, bleh. Well, recently, isn't it funny how it works that when number go up and sentiment shift a little bit, people, but I don't know if it's just that or if I'm hoping I'm getting through to some people a little bit.
Yeah. Because
that's another, like, one of the main goals of this show and just me as a brand is to like Trojan horse and blue pill people into Web3 and like the concept of decentralization and blockchain and on-chain music.
That's right.
Not music NFTs because we don't say it anymore.
Boom.
Like, what do you think is like, how has it been for you and your brand with like the normies, I guess, people that aren't crypto-centric, communicating? Like you told me the other day when we were out to Acai, like you're off saying music NFTs. It's on-chain music. Like, has that been a more effective strat?
I think effective is a hard word to use because frankly, no one cares about crypto right now, like generally speaking. I think people are a lot more receptive to it though. Like previously, if I'd be going to a party in LA, they would be like, oh, you're that guy that does NFTs. You know what I mean? Now when they ask what I'm up to these days, I'm like, I'm an investor and I run a record label. And they're like, okay, what kind of artists are you working with? And I talk about the music first. And they're like, oh, well, how are you helping the artists? I'm like, oh, we put their music on new platforms. And I try and save the NFT bit for as far down the conversation as possible. Because when you just mention it out of the gate, changes the tone immediately. They're like, they associate it with everything you just said. They're like, oh, Bored Apes is a scam, etc. And so for me, I would say the way I value effectiveness is, are the artists who are using these tools growing in their career? Like, is there actually positive signal that an artist who puts their music on chain might have a real career? The answer to that is yes. That feels effective to me, not the fact that they're selling more NFTs. It's like, now I try and value, is this artist growing in general? And it's a big reason why I think you're doing so well right now, is it's artists who are having a moment on social media in general that has nothing to do with their crypto presence, being able to have this kind of secret sauce under the hood where you know that at the bottom of the funnel, there's a group of 100 people who have spent thousands of dollars on this artist's music, underpinning like a wider audience. That's kind of the viewpoint I'm taking for this new year, which is like, just grow these brands as big as possible, develop them as artists, do these shows, make people excited to come out. And if they happen to sell NFTs at the end of the day, that's pretty cool, but you don't need to buy this artist NFT or even care about NFTs in the first place to be a fan of the music.
That's a great way to look at it. Looking at it from an attention economy perspective. Yeah. Because if it's only 100 people collecting it, then is it successful? Like, is it growth, or did you just tap into like a niche thing, right? And I think, it's one of the combos we're having at Hume. It's like, okay, like we're creating these virtual artists. Now, how do we grow them outside of Web3? Because, like we're all music, everyone at Hume, like me and Jay, like we're music people. Like we come from the music industry. So it's like, all right, Angel Baby's like the biggest virtual artist in Web3. Yep. One of the biggest virtual artists, period. Yep. How do we make Angel Baby one of the biggest artists? Yep. How do we make these artists pop off on socials and you don't even know that they're fucking in Web3? You don't even know. And I think it's really just a vehicle. And that's, I guess, what we need to communicate to everybody. Yeah.
I mean, that's the philosophy I've been using, is it needs to be simple, and more importantly, it needs to be frictionless. Like, you can't have someone come and discover an artist for the first time and need to download a wallet, buy cryptocurrency, KYC on Coinbase, learn what layer 2 base is. Like,
I mean, dude, I'm literally right now, I have money in Friendtech, and it's literally free money sitting there for me to go get. Not even buying something, getting money. And it's like so complicated for me to do. I'm like, I'll do it later. Yeah. So like, if you think that I'm not going to go collect a free like $1,000, but expect somebody to go pay for something, set up a wallet, like you can't expect people to do that. Right. It's unrealistic. And I think, I mean, that's obviously a crypto problem at large, but especially music, where people are used to getting free music and not giving a fuck about the value of it, to then expect people to shift to like when we grew up in the 2000s and you had to pay $20 for music, to shift back to that, but having to do and set up a whole thing, and crypto's already daunting and scary. You just can't, it's not realistic. Yeah. So we need to see, like, there needs to be that killer, that app killer, technology killer that is a clean UI and simple. And
I think that's the realization that everyone who's still active on chain today is realizing, though. It's like, I would say that Friendtech, all things considered, is very progressive relative to a lot of crypto apps in the past. Yeah. And there are signals there that make that very promising. It's a mobile app, doesn't cost any money to transact. It's very easy to buy and sell things. It's a social first experience. To your point, there's still all these blockers, but I feel like the delicate balance that I'm trying to figure out right now is like, you have crypto people that are so fucking far down the rabbit hole that the only thing that they care about is the way that the crypto world thinks. Like, we're talking about layer 2s and scaling and, ZK proofs and all this stuff with it in its own merit and in this pocket is very fascinating. But that if you try and explain it to a normal person, not even close, right? But then what I want to highlight here is there's a lot of other people who just went, fuck all of crypto. They just threw it entirely out the window, where they're not still using new products that are coming out. They're not trying out these new like social apps or anything like that. And where I'm trying to position myself is like, be in tune with what's happening on the ground floor of crypto, but don't sell that to the masses. Use this to inform how to build things that are simple and frictionless, so that when someone comes into the space for the first time, you can help them skip all this bullshit you've had to deal with the last 5 years, because you just present them with something on a silver platter that feels exactly the same way that they would expect something to feel in 2023, you know?
Yeah. You have to get like over, there's definitely a large level of snobbery-ness to Web3. And those of us who have armed ourselves with the knowledge, because we've done the work and like we've looked into it and we've learned how to do all this shit, and we know how to read Etherscan, and we know all these things, and we know how to, like, we know what nonces are and all this bullshit. But like, we have to get off our horse if we want to onboard, because you can't expect, I mean, there are people who have been in crypto for 4 or 5 years that are still getting drained.
Yeah.
And just things like that, like, you know, you would be stupid to sit there and think like, well, figure it out or not. Like, nah, that ain't gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah.
People just aren't gonna figure it out. And we've already seen what happens when it's just 5,000 hands trading the same things, you know. Everything turns into a shitcoin.
Yeah.
So you need people. And they'll come. I mean, it's not, this convo isn't like, we need to figure it out or it's not going to happen. No, it's coming. It's inevitable. We know that. Like, the evolution of the internet is inevitable, and it's already been opened and it's coming. But this is just to challenge anybody either that thinks this way or is trying to build something. Yeah, you got to fucking think outside of crypto. And look at what Luca's doing. I mean, Luca is fucking crushing it, dude. Because he's a guy who works in consumer products and e-commerce, and he's like, all right, I'm just gonna build a giant fucking brand. And it's like, oh yeah, also it's an NFT project, but it's a big ass brand. You know, like they're in Walmart and they're fucking, dude, he just today posted they're in Hot Topic. Like, who hasn't been to Hot Topic before? It's in every fucking mall, in every department store in the world.
Right.
That's like what it needs. That's how you need to think.
Yeah. And I think it's all very relevant to what you're doing right now, because I've noticed the projects that are doing the quote unquote best in the crypto world right now are the ones that are giving a serious time and energy allocation to building a brand online. Like Pudgy Penguin says, hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. Like Doodles is flexing that they're getting millions of views on their reels and whatnot. I'm not saying it's like they're going to fucking skyrocket to the floor price of these things being worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it's just a new framing that I do challenge more crypto companies to think about, which is like, build your tech using crypto under the hood, but don't only sell it to crypto people.
Yeah.
Like, find ways to make it accessible. Like, something that sounded this week is you can now upload a song without paying gas. You can now withdraw your first ETH without paying gas.
Huge. And
so just something as small as that is, it's not going to get us all the way there, but it's just about removing the friction from getting started.
But that's huge, because it's like, if I don't have ETH in my wallet, which most artists don't when they first open it, oh, I can't upload a song? Well, I guess I'm not doing it.
Yep.
Oh, I need ETH in my wallet to withdraw. Well, I guess I'm not doing it.
Yep.
And now you can withdraw your ETH, and now you have money in there to interact. You know, it's like with Blocktones, the project that we dropped end of last year. Obviously, it's been tough in the bear market, because it's like, all right, like, what do we do? Do we do another drop? Do we do? And this is the kind of thinking we've been doing, which is, do we just want to interact in just Web3? No. How do we build it and create something that interacts outside of it? And the obvious thing is, well, yeah, I work in the fucking music industry, so it should be it should be music. Yeah. And so that's how we've been thinking and moving and building in this time, and like what we're going to do into next year and how we're approaching it moving forward. And I think it's just, there's no reason that any unless you are just a project starting out, or you're just putting out art, you should be thinking bigger, not bigger, but you should just be thinking, you shouldn't box yourself into just this niche micro community.
Right.
You could use it to get started.
Yeah.
Because you do need to get started somewhere. And, but for those people, that community, it's good for them if you are also thinking bigger than just that micro community. You know?
I think the hardest part, though, is finding a way to balance those two worlds where they both feel seen. Because what I've noticed is it's like a spectrum. It's either like an artist is fucking crushing it on chains. They're on Twitter every day. They're talking to this audience 100% of their time. Then they want to start building a brand on TikTok and Instagram. Now they're posting TikToks, Instagrams every day. Collector chats are dead. You know what I mean? I think what I'm trying to figure out is like, what is the scale on the spectrum where your collector feels excited about the fact that you are posting the music on TikTok, even if the music on TikTok doesn't mention this thing at all?
Yeah.
And I don't have a good answer for it, but that's, I think, my biggest like thought going into this new year is like,
that's got to be, it should be as simple as that. It should be as simple as like, I have this Web3 arm and like you guys are my Discord, my micro, like my collectors.
yeah.
But hey guys, I also need to grow my brand and you should want that. So, and I think where it goes and like the heaven scenario, what this will be is that your collectors will act as a marketing arm with you and be excited about that because they're directly invested in it. That's kind of the big bull case, right? That's the bull case of music NFTs or on-chain music. It's like you have collectors who are there early. They own a piece of your music. They're invested in your career, and it serves them to see you be successful. So like you should be on socials running your shit up, posting every fucking day. And this is a part of a broader conversation, which like artists have a hard time accepting the fact that there's social media influencers now, but you have to be.
Yep.
Sorry, you're a content creator, and if you don't want to be, you're not going to be successful.
Yep.
Period. You already have like a 0.0005% chance of being successful in music. If you are not a content creator and you're just, I'm going to be an artist, you are now 0.0005% of that 0.0005% chance of being successful. 100%. You are literally, it is the only way for visibility.
100%.
And you're being a fucking stubborn idiot if you don't think you have to do it.
I think that's one of the areas that Web3 set some artists back, is that they became so used to making thousands of dollars by posting a song on a new platform that they thought that they didn't need to be building a brand or building an audience, you know? And so I think something that happened recently is now it's gone so far the other direction where they're not like making $1,000 in 10 minutes on a new platform, that now they're just saying, fuck my collectors. Like, I don't even care about these people, you know? So it's this really weird dichotomy where I think I'm trying to figure out, like, how do you make being a collector cool, like something that is like sought after and desired? Because it is in certain communities. Like if you have a fucking punk, like it's a sign of respect in this industry by other people who are highly successful, by people who have a lot of knowledge. But if it goes to something like music, no one cares that you collect music. Like with all due respect, no one cares outside of like the 1,000 people that are here that you're like one of the biggest collectors of this artist that's putting their music on chain. And so what I'm trying to figure out is like, what makes people actually care about wanting to be a collector, as that word is currently positioned? Is that even the right word? I don't know.
I think it is. And I think like there are so many music collectors, but I just don't think like on-chain music is recognized by the masses yet. And I think as we begin to gain more and more notoriety as an industry, you'll see it. Because there's a bunch of fucking people that spend thousands and thousands of dollars a year on vinyl and have CD-ROM collections and are like music merch T-shirts and band shirts and ticket stubs, and that shit's all like, there's a collector for every thing, but especially music. There's a shitload of music collectors, and I think there's just not enough people yet, and there's not enough talented artists yet that are making music. And that's no knock to the people that suck that are making music, because you should. You're gonna suck for a long time until you don't suck. I sucked for a long fucking time. Not everybody will eventually not suck, but everybody will suck when they start.
100%.
So you should just go and try. And whenever anybody asks me for advice in the music industry, first thing I say is make 1,000 songs. Make 1,000 more. Make 1,000 more. So there's just not enough talent on chain yet. And I think for like what's tough for like music, or for collectors that like are in the Web3 space that collect other forms of art and PFPs and shit, the art's just not there yet. For all of it. Like a lot of people collected, obviously like there's certain musicians on chain that are fire and people collect them, and that's sick. But there's just not a lot.
I mean, someone said to me on a call this week, it's like if you wanted to collect rookie cards, but you could only collect 3rd and 4th round draft picks. You know, like where the LeBron James is. You know, what I mean,
there's probably a few here. I don't want to name. You know, it's really just the people that I'm friends with that are fucking sick on there.
It was a very validating point,
that
though,
I can speak
like,
on, but yes.
Me and you uniquely are excited about these artists that we think will have prominent careers, but if you're just in music in general, like there's no one that you can definitively point to and be like, yo, this person is fucking popping. Like undeniably, this person is a star that has a huge audience, that has a bunch of fans, and I think that's going to take time, but I guess what I'm trying to like pull out from that is to say that you just got to keep trying, and you got to think about things differently. You know, like you gotta get out there and build a real audience, because you're not going to survive off just being like a full-on crypto person. And maybe you'll catch a wave when it comes back. But I look at people like you as the shining example of someone who I think is doing a phenomenal job of building a brand in the world today, because you're extremely passionate about all this shit that we've talked about on the crypto side. But you found a way to talk about the bigger picture in a way that clicks with the everyday person, and it's only going to make your crypto arm that much more powerful when you find a way to connect those two dots together.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's the goal.
Yeah. So let's take it all full circle here. What's on the horizon for you 2024 when you think about the year ahead? How are you positioning yourself? What are some takeaways for the listeners here?
I'm just really trying to create, like, I want to have one of the biggest podcasts in the world. Yeah. And so I know it's going to take a lot of work. I would say that's a huge priority, obviously, growing that. From a music standpoint, you know, it's like, it's tough to, in all these things that I'm doing, like I still need to be a major songwriter and producer in the industry, because like you also don't want to lose that. Yep. Because it's kind of my way into a lot of things. And that status is something that obviously you don't lose the ability, but losing like being hot is important in music and like being relevant and in these. So I did a good job of getting it back this year, because the year prior was all crypto. Yep. I mean, I really went all crypto, and I stopped doing sessions. It was also like a silent protest of how fucked the music industry was. I was like, fuck this bullshit. Right. I just made fucking $20K on an airdrop, like all that. It was just a defiant move, and it was great because I made, you know, I had a lot of career changing things happen to me, but last year or this year I had to get it back, and it took a minute. It was like when you get back in the gym after like 4 years, you're like, oh fuck, like and so this year, I got to stay on top of that. But I'm really excited about what we're doing at Hume and Blocktones, and just having that materialize, and all the things you talked about and we've talked about in this episode, which is finding ways to bridge blockchain and music today, and onboard those people in, and offboard Web3 people to like, oh yeah, also care about this is everything else. And it's why I really value our relationship, because like you're one of the few people that I can have these convos with, because there's just not a lot of people who are intersecting those two things. So that's primarily it. And the Detroit Lions hopefully winning the Super Bowl.
Hopefully. I actually want the Lions to win for you, because I really don't care about football that much as a sport. And I'm just like, let's go Lions, because I just know Gino is fucking
dude. If
such
you're
a big
not,
fan.
if your team isn't in it,
root for the Lions.
Why the fuck would you? Anybody that's like mad the Lions are good, like how could you ever? Who doesn't like the Lions? We've been dog shit for 30 years. I haven't seen a playoff win in my lifetime. Okay, in my lifetime, I watched Barry Sanders come and go. Calvin Johnson come and go. I like, this is, we finally are a competent organization. Anyway, and let me tell you one more thing. If you thought I was insufferable before, if you thought I was a cocky motherfucker before, with no humility in sight, don't let the Detroit Lions be like the team. You know, don't let us have like a Patriots like legacy, because I'm gonna be the fucking worst, dude. Oh man, it's gonna be great.
There's one thing I wanted to bring up there that does not have to do with the Lions, unfortunately, but go Lions. Okay, Jared Goff, redemption arc of the century. Yeah. It's really hard to admit that the things that I firmly believed in even 12 months ago are not coming true in the way that I expected them to in this time frame, you know? And I think something I'm really trying to just like internalize is I was so vocal on Twitter, music NFTs, fucking future of music, all this kind of stuff, support artists directly, whatever it is. If it's not working, it's not fucking working. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's important to not try and like bang this drum forever that this thing is working when it's just not. That doesn't mean that I don't believe in it and that I don't think it's going to work at some point in the future. But I feel like a lot of times, especially now in crypto in this bear market, there's like this false sense of optimism that everything is just going to be all good. Everything that we thought was going to happen in the bull market is just going to come back. It's going to come back. I'm like, no, it's not, unless we do something to make it actually happen. And so I'm really trying to like drop these pre-existing notions of what worked in the past when ETH was fucking mooning and everyone thought NFTs were cool, to just look rationally at what's happening right now. But it's been very difficult for me because I feel like I've lost my voice in a lot of ways, because what got my followers up and what got the conversation going for me was all this like hopium conversation that just is not real relative to what's happening today. So I feel like it's this new like discovery period around like, how do you just authentically talk about what's meaningful to you, knowing that what you said in the past is not coming true to the tune that you thought it would in this time frame.
I read a great quote. I'm going to totally fucking butcher it, but I think it's to the effect of, as humans, we greatly underestimate how long things take in the short form.
Yeah.
And we greatly overestimate how long things take in the short form. And we greatly underestimate how quickly they happen in the long form, in the horizon, the grand, like, you know what I mean? Which to me means, and I probably butchered the fuck out of that quote, but to me, what I'm trying to say in layman's terms, we see this vision for this, and we know where it's going, and everybody kind of knows where it's going. We thought that it was going to happen so fast because, of course, it's a no-brainer. But we underestimated how long it was going to take the technology to advance, how like those hurdles we talked about, those obstacles, a simple UI, onboarding, people dropping this negative stigma of crypto. Like, we underestimated how long that would take.
Yeah.
And now we are overestimating how long it will take.
Yeah.
Because now we're in the like, oh, well, it didn't happen right away, so great. It's going to be fucking probably 7 years. And it might be like October. Who knows? All it takes is somebody putting out the thing.
Yep.
The killer app. That or just Spotify going, and blockchain.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, they literally could roll out an L2 ARM and we're off to the races. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that type of thinking, like, so I think, like, for me, it's just changing the tone.
Yep.
Of like hopium to like, hey, this is a problem. This is a problem. This is the solution. Arm yourself with the knowledge. This is what's out right now. Really just kind of like informative and like having that conviction. But I think these are the combos that are the right way of approaching it. The way of like, hey, this is where it's going. We know this is what's up. In the meantime, we need to like solve these problems and look at it from this lens.
100%.
You know,
I think that I got very jaded from how fast things happen within
God.
crypto.
But okay. No, I think we're in a different, on a different side of the coin here. On that, I think it's going to get fucking silly again when the bull market's back. I am of the thought that these numbers are going to be, we're going to look back and be like, huh, remember when this was this? I really think that we're underestimating the amount of money and how scarce a lot of these things are. Again, like, not everything, most things won't survive, but the things that do, I think, are going to be ridiculous. And I think it's going to take, we're already seeing it now, the positive shift in sentiment and like more institutional money coming and just the tone changing of these publications for people to then look and say, oh, this is a really cool way to look at music.
Yeah.
And it really might just take number go up to be the driver.
There's so much truth in that. I just really feel like in a lot of ways, crypto became this shortcut where you could just fast pass 10 years of experience by just buying a fucking JPEG on the internet.
For sure.
And just making $1 million.
But
you know,
I don't know if there'll be as many shortcuts.
Yeah.
There certainly won't be a shortcut popping up every fucking
Yeah.
3 hours like there was in the bull market. I mean, dude, if I had capital and the balls that some of my friends had, I would have made fucking 9 figures. These people, I mean, it's disgusting. I made good money, but like, I don't know if we'll see PFP mania in this, but again, we might be underestimating it.
Right.
It might be worse. Like, it might go crazy. We don't know. Nobody knows.
Right.
And so all we can do is, I think what's really important for me is arming my following with like the right way to look at it, the right knowledge, the right perspective, so that when it is time, even if it's instant or if it's a slow drip, people are ready. And
I agree with that. And I think that's a big reason why we do this podcast, is to try and figure out like, how do we actually earn the respect of the music industry the right way? Where it's not like people look to everyone that's in crypto and just like write it off as this whole like Wild West pump and dump type world into something that can genuinely make significant and real influence in the world. And I think for me, it's just been a big reset, because I'm just like, I've loved music my whole life. I'd like to say I've been working in music for a long time now, but it feels like it's year one for me of like really actually working in music, because I'm trying to get rid of this like pre-assumed notion that just because I did well in crypto that I now have some fucking magic secret answer that no one else has. I'm like, bro, I don't know shit. I mean? Like, I gotta learn how to get an artist to sell at 100 cab room. Like, you can't sell Bored Apes your way into that shit. You know what I mean? Like, you got to get some real fans. And so I think it's just been a very humbling full circle moment. And again, just to really emphasize on it, you've been doing a phenomenal job the last year, the last few months, et cetera. I think you're going to have a crazy year to come. And so I think this was just a great opportunity to be like, listen to what you have to say and how you're doing this, because so many people that are watching this and listening to this can learn so much from just simply following a lot of the advice you've offered in this episode.
Well, thank you, brother. Thanks for having me on. And should do this again soon. Sick.
We'll have to do a recap when things are going crazy.
Yeah. Told you, motherfuckers.
Cheers. Well, hey, that's Gino the Ghost for you. 2-time Grammy winner, Block Tones, Unseen Club. Good luck with Gino.
Good luck.
We could keep going, but hey, it's been an honor, man.
Yeah,
Until next time.
Thank you for having me, man.
All right, guys.
See you guys.
Peace.
Halo, but I don't think I deserve it. But something must be working. I know that I ain't perfect, but I'm super close. Told me not to drink it, but I'm swerving. I'm flying above.